Yeah. Is it too hard for you?
Just when you think Nintendo fanboy Harmon Smith cannot sink any lower, he drops this turd. And this is basically a fake Elden Ring DLC review. It's so obvious that he wrote the script. It is a pathetic attempt at slandering Elden Ring with false information. So let's take a look. Trust me, this is about to get cringe.
I just cleared Elden Ring without taking a hit. I want that to be known before I review the game as a whole, because we really need to clear this up. FromSoft games are not hard. I remember beating the original Dark Souls while I was wasted in college without even realizing this game had a reputation for being difficult. To me, this was just a basic ARPG that didn't really innovate or improve upon what other better games have done before it. To others, though, these are the hardest games ever made. Probably because the typical FromSoft fan doesn't play many games. Elden Ring, Shadows of the Erdtree is one of the most disappointing releases of the year.
Man, the AI voice is so bad. The awkward pauses. It's like this guy has no clue what he's doing. Now, don't get me wrong, AI voices can be used for very productive things, but doing this fake Elden Ring review that doesn't represent anybody's real experience because he just made it out of thin air, that is a terrible use.
I hated Elden Ring and everything about it on release. I hated the fact that I had to do a hitless run on stream to demonstrate just how easily exploitable the AI is and to mock people for not knowing how to properly utilize character builds. The base game paled in comparison to titles like Ninja Gaiden Black and Shin Megami Tensei, and the DLC pales in comparison to other titles that built themselves off of older releases. It's insane to me that this was developed in the same amount of time it took to develop The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask.
There is no subtlety in his game whatsoever. Everybody knows that he's the only brain dead moron that is constantly comparing Elden Ring to Zelda, even though they are two different games. And at the same time, just to take a look at this specific argument, yes, Shadow of the Erdtree took 2 years to develop, much like Majora's Mask. But Majora's Mask was 20 years ago. And back then, companies were pumping out games at a rapid pace. So he cannot say that it took the same amount of time to develop as a current game. But back then, that was the norm. It would be 1 to 2 years, and they were pumping out bangers left and right. But then the graphics started taking over and the output dramatically slowed down. But let's keep listening. Let's play his game. He's going to continue to expose himself in this fake review.
Currently, the cope from soft fanboys in regards this release is that people are only criticizing it because it's hard conveniently ignoring the fact that accessing the DLC requires you to play through a large chunk of the base game. The game that's been out for 2 years. To me, it cannot be more apparent that Souls fans weaponize complaints about the difficult to write off and ignore the game's other issues. The game looks like trash. It runs poorly. It makes no sense. The lore amounts to Zanzibar forgive me, tier YouTuber bait. And fanboys will seriously tell you this is all a part of Miyazaki's grand vision. Miyazaki really has replaced Hideo Kojima as the Japanese game developer that is going to save us all from boring, mediocre games. I remember when people tried defending slop like Metal Gear Solid 4 in order to protect Kojima's image. And I'm seeing the same kind of behavior among FromSlop fans. Frothing at the mouth, angry, sweaty, hands are typing angrily in the comments section of this video.
So get this. Obviously, to me and you would think right off the bat, okay, he's passing this off as some type of satire. He's not really being serious about it. But no, he's really trying to confuse people because people were questioning him in his comment section saying, how can you review a game you haven't played? And then he wrote, it's not me that wrote the review. I'm not the one who wrote this. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Nobody else says from slop. It's like this fanboy is so deluded, he doesn't realize that he's actually robbing himself of great enjoyment with games. I mean, personally, I have a Switch, a PS5, and a gaming PC with a 4090, and you can find great experiences on all devices. I will always prefer From Software titles because that's just my favorite genre, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy some RTS with StarCraft 2 or some Zelda and Mario with the Nintendo. It's like this guy should really broaden his horizons because he's very narrowly minded. But let's keep listening to the final act of this fake review.
FromSoft fans are essentially members of a cult. You cannot challenge their gods FromSoft. You cannot address the lack of evolution in their releases, their poor storytelling decisions, their sloppy game design. To do so is hearsay, and you will be burned at the stake for even trying to address these issues. I give Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree 0 out of 10 stars. As the angry video game nerd would say, Shadow of the Erdtree? More like shit stain on a turd tree.
Shit stain on a turd tree. Isn't that fantastic, Harmon? I'm sure you're really proud of yourself that you came up with that by yourself. Or maybe ChatGPT helped you a little bit. What a pathetic attempt at slandering Elden Ring without even playing the game. And that's the thing. Elden Ring lives in this guy's mind rent-free. He keeps making videos on it over and over and over. And some people might say, oh, well, he's just rage baiting. He's just farming clicks. But what clicks? His videos get like 200 views. Everybody that just reacts to it like me then gets thousands. So you're not really farming anything but misery. Man, this guy is just unreal. Before we wrap it up, I want to show you his latest mental breakdown.
Do you really think they would be upset about the difficulty? Right? This is the problem with FromSlop. And the reason I cannot stand them and their fanboys is that like every time someone talks about their games, you know, how finicky they are, like how slow paced they are, like the combat, the glitches, like the frame rate, the bosses, like you know, the cheap one shots, like they all just like do this thing where they're just like yeah, is it too hard for you?
Dude, what the fuck was that? We just saw a grown man sitting in his mom's basement have a mental breakdown over a video game. What a man-child. Anyways, let's keep listening, because somehow I think he can deliver on a little bit more comedy.
Like, never mind the fact that I've played and beaten far more difficult games than Dark Souls, right? That I am an extremely experienced player who knows what he's talking about when it comes to like difficulty in games and what is good and challenging gameplay. Like Elden Ring, no FromSlop game is difficult. Like they're just cheap, right? They don't explain to you critical mechanics. They're obtuse, right? They're not well-designed, interesting games, right? There are so many more better action-packed games in this genre that do the same thing but better, right? Monster Hunter chief among them. Like FromSlop has not been doing anything new or interesting in their entire history, essentially, right? They have always been outclassed by other developers. You know, Armored Core was outclassed by all the other mech games out there, and of course Tenchu was destroyed by Metal Gear Solid to the point where people don't even realize that like Tenchu predated it as a stealth game. Like FromSlop is just not a very good development studio, right? And I do think this DLC, it really is a very good indication of that, because if people were really enjoying this DLC, if they were really talking about it, right, you would be seeing all this like real positive, just like coverage of the game. But no, like the first instinct of the FromSlop fanboy is to come out and do damage control for people who aren't enjoying the game and are like bringing up all the very numerous issues, right? And this is the big thing I've noticed.
I mean, to be 100% fair, there are people criticizing the game, but there's not numerous issues. There's one in their mind, and that is difficulty. Now, usually someone would just say, get good, it's a skill issue, but this time it's a little different. It's an exploration skill issue, because these people, much like Asmongold, prefer to just bash their head against the wall and die to the same boss 45 times in a row than just doing a little bit of exploration and getting the scattered tree fragments, which you're supposed to get. That's the DLC's way to level up your character. So if it's not From Software's fault, if these players are just bashing their head against the wall and refuse to do any amount of exploration, they clearly indicated it in the beginning of the game that that's how you will get stronger. That is pretty much the only issue that people have with the game. And once you decide to unplug your head from your own asshole and do a little bit of exploration and level up your character through the fragments, then the experience becomes a lot more enjoyable and satisfying. So that's how it is. And honestly, I think it's a very good system. It prevents experienced players from just steamrolling through the game, and it provides the challenge that you would find at the beginning of a new Souls-like. So I think the way how they implemented that was absolutely genius. But anyways, I've heard enough of this fanboy for today. Maybe we will take a look at more nonsense tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe, or else you're going to become a maidenless scrub, and you don't want that. So hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.